Welcome everybody, my name is Jack Myrick. I'm the author of The Merchant, and we're going to spend the next several weeks unpacking the seeds of success through The Merchant. And I wrote the book several years ago and wanted to write a book because I wanted to be able to provide people with information that were working for me or just people that I cared about on how to get inside the head of your boss. I wanted them to understand how to become that most valuable player at work. And I wanted that for the people that work for me, but I also wanted it for my own children. My daughters were becoming up to the age where they were getting ready to enter the workforce, and I wanted to give them something very tangible so that they could apply it to their work life and make them the most valuable member of the team that they chose to work for. So that's why I wrote it, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you take the lessons and apply them, because they're called seeds for a very simple reason. Because we plant seeds and we reap a harvest. And I grew up in a KOA campground. My parents owned the KOA campground in Oklahoma City. And so I'm literally 6 years old standing on a milk crate ringing up the cash register. I grew up in a family business, and so business was always family. I always looked at business like, this is our family business. When your family owns it, you look at it differently. It's like if somebody does something wrong, it's like, you hurt my family. So you have this ownership mentality. And that really served me well, because when I entered the workplace, what I found was that I'm working side by side with people that they're like a renter. They're not an owner. They got a job. They just have a job, and I've taken ownership in this job and ownership in my life. And when employers were looking at the two of us, it was pretty obvious to them, hey, I like this guy that's taking ownership versus the guy that's just here punching a clock. So that's really the mindset about The Merchant, is how to really take ownership of your life and your work habits. And the first one is kind of interesting because the publisher, it's the only thing he changed really in the book. I mean, other than editing, he didn't really change anything except this first seed. He put excel first, reap later. And I like it okay, but it doesn't really explain the concept that I had in mind. There's a couple others that I would certainly think hit a closer mark to it. And one of them is you always pay in advance. You always pay in advance. Bosses figure out real quick, if you give somebody a raise just to motivate them to work harder, that they will possibly work harder. But it's not long before they've reverted back to the old patterns that they had in their job. So money is not a great way to really motivate people for better performance. Another way to think about it is you reap what you sow. I do like that, when you reap what you sow. You are exactly where you are today because of the seeds that you planted in your life yesterday, last week, last month, last year, last 5 years. We are all exactly where we planted seeds. We're harvesting the seeds that we planted in our past. Now, there's a lot of good seeds that we're harvesting, but there's other areas of our life that we wish we'd have planted better seeds, right? So think about, where do I need to plant some better seeds? What do I need to do differently moving forward so that my harvest in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years is the harvest that I want? It's the life that I desire for me and my family. I don't know what those seeds look like. When I say I don't know what they look like, they're going to be different for every individual. That maybe some of you need to go back to school. Maybe some of you need to get your GED or go back to the tech school and get a certification. Maybe some of you need to get some training, get your CDL license. If you're not working, maybe the seed is that you start planning 8 hours a day of finding a job. That if you're not working, your job is to find a job. So you should be getting up every day and looking at that and attacking that like that is your job. And then it's not going to be a surprise when the job materializes. So think about these seeds for how you can apply them on the job when you get the job. The other thing that I want you to do is I want you to think about using this language and making it your own. So whether you use Excel first, reap later, you reap what you sow, you always pay in advance, I want you to think about what would that sound coming out of my mouth in my words, because I want you to use it in an interview. I want you, when you're talking to the interviewer, and remember the interviewer is probably not a professional HR person. Most interviews today are going to be done in a small business, and they're going to be from the manager that's hiring in that department or the person that owns the business. They're not a professional interviewer. They don't spend their day, every single day interviewing. This is just a small part of what they do. So here's the secret. When you start using the language of the merchant, what you're going to do is you're going to flip a switch inside their head. When you say, sir, you want me to tell you about myself? Well, let me tell you one thing about myself. I understand that you always have to pay in advance, that things aren't just going to happen to me here, that I'm going to have to work hard for those opportunities. I'm going to have to work hard and study, maybe go the extra mile for those increases in salary and benefits. So I understand that up front, that I'm going to have to pay in advance, and I'm totally okay with that, and I'm ready to get started tomorrow. When you start talking with that kind of language, it's going to send something off in their heads, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, I've been looking for somebody just like this. So think about, how does this language look as far as a behavior on the job, but how can you use it? And even better, think about a time in your past where you applied this principle in some way, and if you can use that in an interview, that's great too, because stories always help with memory. So think about the seed. The seed is you always pay in advance, you reap what you sow. And so think about how you can do that in your current position if you're working. Think about how you can do that in your job search better. Think about how you could do that in the relationship with your partner. Yeah. Think about what seeds you could plant with your partner. When you come home at the end of the day, walk in, give them a kiss, look them in the eyes and say, I love you. Tell me, how was your day? Start every day when you come home just like that, and that'll plant great seeds. So think about, where in your life do you need to plant better seeds with your career, with your spouse, with your kids. Think about, where do you need to start planting better seeds. Also, think about what great seeds would look like. So as this series goes on, I'm going to send you emails throughout the week that's going to ask you to think about these seeds in one way or another, and actually kind of journal a little bit some of your responses, and we'll take some of the best of those and we'll post them on a group site. But I hope you take the time and the energy to really invest in this series, because it's one of the things that I know that you can do that will really transform your life, because it's transformed mine. Let's get it done.